President, it is good that the Senate and the House are working on a bipartisan basis to pass a short-term spending bill to keep the government open. But make no mistake, our work is not over, because once again, we are leaving town for a long period of time, not having passed disaster aid to help survivors on Maui and elsewhere. Over the past 13 months, since tragic fires tore down the town of Lahaina and claimed 102 lives, I've been here on the floor repeatedly pressing for urgent disaster relief. And in that time, more disasters have devastated communities all over the country. So many people on Maui, in Texas, in Vermont, in New Mexico, in California, in Iowa, in Florida, and 20 states total, and unfortunately rising. They're waiting for help, and the federal government has not come to their aid yet. They've lost loved ones, they've lost homes, they've lost businesses, they've lost livelihoods, and all they want is help and a little bit of hope to get their lives back to something close to normal. What are we doing as a Congress if we can't even deliver help to our fellow Americans when disaster strikes? So when we return in November, passing disaster aid has to be the top priority of the United States Congress. There is no excuse not to do this. What's being asked of us is what Congress always does. We simply need to do the thing that we've always done, which is to show up for disaster survivors and get them the help that they need. And if you are a member who represents any of the 20-odd states that need this help, we need your help. And if you are a member from one of the other 30 states, there but for the grace of God go I. It will always come around. Everyone needs disaster help. So consider it your priority, even if your state, thank God, hasn't been hit this year or last. Even if you don't have 20 or 30,000 victims waiting for help. This is an American priority, and we cannot close up shop for this Congress leaving all these Americans behind. Mr. President, I ask consent that the following remarks appear in a separate part of the record.
Without objection.
Mr. President, this week caps a remarkable 28-year run in the United States Senate for Dabney Haig, the Democratic clerk and staff director for the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, which I chair. A career in public service spanning nearly 3 decades is extraordinary by any measure, but it's all the more impressive considering its trajectory, which began when Dabney was an intern in the office of her home state senator, the late Senator Fritz Hollings of South Carolina. She worked her way up in his office to become a legislative assistant and went on to serve him and my great and heroic predecessor, Senator Daniel K. Inouye, on the Commerce Committee. She ultimately joined the Appropriations Committee in 2010 and has been the Democratic clerk of the THUD subcommittee for nearly a decade, beginning under the leadership of Senator Jack Reed. Dabney is everything you want in a public servant: smart, relentless, passionate, and loyal. And she's an appropriator's appropriator. What does that mean? She always gets to yes, and she always gets everyone else to yes. And the reason for that is evident from the first interaction with her. She's clear about what's important, and she's not afraid to fight for it. As appropriators, we are the ones that are supposed to cut deals and shake hands. But on some level, that's the easy part. Then it's on the clerks like Dabney to scrap it out down to the last dime and get the bill written and over the finish line. And they do it away from the spotlight and without much fanfare, burying themselves in spreadsheets and statutes, toiling over every last digit and decimal, and rising above the partisan bickering to deliver more homes and better roads and safer transportation. Dabney has had a hand in just about every major funding accomplishment in recent memory. Through appropriations, she's helped deliver record funding for native housing and tribal transportation, as well as our first of its kind, Yes in My Backyard, grant program to get more homes built across the country. And beyond that, she's been a key partner in advancing priorities through major bills like the IIJA, the American Rescue Plan, and even the FAA reauthorization. For Hawaii, Dabney has always been a friend and an advocate, helping to secure funding for the HART rail system and the Honoapi'ilani Highway realignment, among many other projects. And this past year, after the devastating fires on Maui, she made it her mission to get survivors relief, much as she's done for so many communities struck by disaster. But that's just who she is. She understands that behind the numbers and the estimates and the stipulations that we deal with every day, there are real people and real communities whose lives stand to be materially improved by the work that we do. And that's a valuable reminder for all of us, whether you've worked here for 30 years or 3 months. And so I want to sincerely thank Dabney for her years of partnership and her decades of service to the Senate, to the country, and the state of Hawaii. We all wish her and her family nothing but the best in the future. I yield the floor.